Good day, folks. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Trevor and I am your one-armed bandit in the bush. It's been about a week and a half since I posted my last video, and there's a lot that's actually been going on. I unfortunately have run into challenges along the way, starting last week on Sunday morning. In fact, Saturday I had gone into Moab to upload videos. That would have been the last two videos that I posted, and I stayed at the Rustic Inn in Moab and checked out Sunday morning. And as I was ready to get going on to the next adventure, guess what happened? All right, so we've got a little bit of a challenge. I came into Moab on Saturday to upload some videos, and Sunday morning when it was time to depart, I checked into the Rustic Inn in Moab. I went to swing the engine and click, click, click. So after doing some self-diagnosis and not being able to sort out the problem, I eventually managed to get a hold of a auto shop. And this was late Sunday afternoon. I got a hold of Curtis from CG Motors. He's a mobile mechanic and he came straight on out to come and assist. Yesterday evening we eventually diagnosed that it was a starter motor problem, and he's now just returned with the starter motor to take the old one out, install the new one, and hopefully I get underway. Well, that was the big problem. And yes, this is the first time that Pumbaa has left me stranded. The other issue was that one of the bolts on the passenger side clamp, or latch rather, on the rooftop tent came loose, lost the nut and bolt. So I've had to replace that with a makeshift similar size, and hopefully that'll hold out. So yeah, let's take a look and see how we go with the repairs. So this of course caught me by surprise because, as you know, I come from Africa, and in Africa a lot of Toyotas are driven, Land Rovers and others as well, but Toyota really is a big pick out there, and the reason why is because of its reliability. Now, when vehicles are built in Africa, they have to be built extra tough because there things can get destroyed quite easily. The terrain, the levels of support and engineering infrastructure that's there to service vehicles, etc., is not quite what you would get elsewhere in the world, particularly when you get into rural environments. So, Toyota reliability in Africa, I want to show you a clip of how reliable Toyotas in Africa are, so that you will understand why I was shocked that old Pumbaa wouldn't get going for me on the Sunday when I wanted to depart. So this clip comes courtesy of my buddies back in South Africa. In fact, these are childhood friends, folks that I've known since pre-primary school. We are still buddies, and a group of guys known as the North Coast Hooligans of the Natal North Coast back in South Africa. They've sent me this clip. So thanks, guys, for the clip, and have a look at this. This is really neat. Watch it all the way through, and you will see just how reliable Toyotas are in Africa.
والله ما اشوف وين هاك الابليس. يلا وين الموتر؟ يمشي ولا وقف؟ يمشي ولا وقف؟ تعال تعال.
So then it was on with the repairs. So let's take a look at that, and you'll probably detect from my commentary in the videos that at this stage of the game, I was still all excited and confident that I would be getting going by the Monday night. So what happened was the auto shop that I'd reached came out Sunday, diagnosed, starter motor, came back Monday about midday-ish with the parts, got working on it. And let's take a look at that, shall we? So this is Curtis's rig that he comes out with. He has a bus that's converted into a mobile workshop. Curtis Garfield from CM or CG, sorry, mobile mechanic in Moab. So there we go. Curtis is under the truck, and we're hopefully on our way to resolving this challenge. And hopefully by this afternoon sometime we'll be underway. But there's a long way to go still. And just another example of expect the unexpected, so that don't get on top of yourself. Now, I also be grateful for the small mercies. Look where I am. I'm right in town. Can you imagine if this was way out there on the trail and then the starter motor packed in on me? That wouldn't have been fun, would it? But you'll see how organized Curtis is. He's even got a big shade awning to fit right over the vehicle. At least get some shade. Those of you that have been in Moab this time of the year will know it's a blessing for the weather to dish up temperatures under 90. Today may be an exception. It's a little cooler, but it is still very warm straight out in the sun. So at this point already, we're now late afternoon on Monday. And this is quite a bitch to get to this thing, because you really, to get to the starter motor, you have to take the manifold off. And that is no easy task. And Curtis was really slogging away here trying to get to that starter motor. And of course, this being a 2007 Toyota Tundra, you would expect that the bolts on that manifold gave a very, very big challenge. In fact, there were a number of them that actually snapped and had to be drilled out. So after what turned out to be an extremely long day and a very, very massive battle, we managed to get the vehicle to start. In fact, when the vehicle started, there were a lot of folk from the Rustic Inn who were very supportive, inquiring all the time, seeing if there was anything they could do to help. They knew I was in a bind. You would have seen in the last little clip, there's a number of motorcycles two motorcycles that were parked next to my truck. Well, they were part of a larger group, a bunch of French-Canadian guys from Quebec. I trust and hope, if you're watching this, that you got back safely. But yeah, when the Pumbo fired up, there was a big round of applause. So everybody was happy for me. So thank you so much. Of course, there were one or two that were a little bit upset that it had taken so long, and they wanted my truck to get out of there and didn't want me occupying a bay and felt there was too much noise that was taking place. So there were some complaints to the front office that needed to be dealt with as well, given the lateness. And I guess that by that time their tolerance had run a little bit thin, and they were eager to see me getting on my way. So I had a deadline of 10:30 to get out of that place, and we managed to get out of there at 10:35 p.m. So I was then chasing another deadline, and had to get to the grocery store, which fortunately was very close by and only closed at 11 p.m. I made it with about 10 minutes to spare, got in and out, got some groceries, met Curtis back at my truck. And the reason I met him back at my truck was because when we started it, there were a whole lot of warning lights that came up, and he wanted me to drive it a bit and then check it again. And anyway, so when I come out from the grocery store, he told me that he had gotten the warning lights to clear by adjusting or readjusting and resetting the adapters and plugs and cords around the air intake valves, or motors, should I say, well, positioned around the air intake would do for purpose of explanation. And said that it was something that was non-standard that he hadn't seen, and now the vehicle was running great. So from there, I drove around the corner, probably about 200 yards or so, to a gas station. I had to fill with gas because I had some ways to go. It was probably about 11:20, 11:30 p.m. So it was pretty late and I still had to find somewhere to camp. So I fill up with gas and ready to roll, jump in the truck, turn the ignition, click, 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 dead. So I message Curtis. I tell him I'm jammed again. My truck is now in the gas station, in the petrol, at the gas pump, and I'm holding up a pump. Well, luckily there was not too many vehicles there at around 12 p.m. Anyway, I sent a text message as well, and much to my amazement, Curtis responded. He was back there within minutes. He came out in his truck with a big old beefy set of jumpers, thinking that it could have been the battery. We tried that. There was absolutely no luck. So he gave me a tow with his truck, pulled me off out to the side, and he parked the truck in a bay off to the side of the gas station, and he left. So there I was, 12:38, and truck can't go, truck is stranded, truck's got lots of valuables on it. I am not too eager just to leave it at a gas station. And there were a number of people that were milling around and that were watching. So there's no ways I was going to leave it. So as a result, I stayed at the gas station. I clearly could not erect a tent because you cannot camp in town. And I stayed guard over my vehicle the entire night. I was of the understanding, based on communication with Curtis, that he would return the next morning. While that didn't happen, I got reprioritized over another job, which was a contract job, a company that he's contracted to provide services to. So there I sat the whole day, not knowing what was going on, unable to reach him, and in a bind. Turned out that my battery had actually run flat during that second day, so I could not lock the car because of the central locking wouldn't work. It requires power. Anyway, so I stayed guard again the second night. Then on the Tuesday, around about 11:30 or so, I think Curtis eventually arrived and filled me in on what the deal was. Replaced the battery, no luck, vehicle wouldn't swing. And then said, well, he's been thinking maybe he had failed to connect one of the power cords to the starter motor. So off with everything again, manifold off, get to the starter motor, and yep, there it was. Cord was loose or not really connected. He said he had found that the clip itself had obviously broken either when he put it back on or when he took it off. So that solved the problem, and we replaced that clip, and I was underway. Again, it was late. It was after 6 p.m. I didn't want to take a chance of driving too far from Moab in case the next day I encountered another problem. So I camped on some BLM land just outside of Moab and was treated to one of the most amazing sunrises that I've seen in quite some time. So let me share the picture of that sunrise. In fact, what I'm actually misspeaking here, as you can tell. Clearly, this is a moonrise and not a sunrise. This commentary. So they are overnighted, and the next morning everything was hunky-dory, no lights, truck started, purring. I was happy, confident that the problem was resolved, and off I went. So from there, next port of call was about 125 miles away to a place called Ryan's Creek. So let's take a look at what transpired when I got myself out to Ryan's Creek. So at the start here, when I set the camera, unfortunately, I've set it off slightly to the right, and it's biased off to the right of the trail. My apologies. I picked it up a bit late, and then didn't really have option to stop. So here we are at the trailhead. Just got it onto Ryan Creek. So my actual priority first is going to be to find a campsite. So that's priority number one, because I've been extensively delayed with my vehicle parked in shaded areas whilst all the repairs were being done. And as a result, my batteries are practically depleted. So, I mean, I've got a bit of a charge when I came in from Moab side, driving in the vehicle, but that's not going to be good enough. So going down a little bit of a gnarly section here, but nothing much. So this trail is rated as an easy trail. But what we also want to do is rate trails in the attractiveness. Okay, we got one steep line here. So of course, as you know, once you get onto trails, there is a golden rule. And the golden rule is, well, you should always drive as slow as possible and as fast as necessary. So, you want to preserve your rims and your vehicle, little things can sneak up on you, like this little hole, you just about to go in there. If I hit that hard, I'm going to be in trouble. Yeah, it's a little bit bumpy, but there we go, on screen. So, I will focus on the driving, but I need you guys to help me. I need you to keep your eyes out for a chute going off or a spur going off. It will take us to a magic campsite. And I can see as I'm talking now and driving that this camera is not optimally angled to record through the front windshield. So I do apologize for that. But I'm not going to try and stop and adjust it now. Because now I'm concentrating, man. Yeah, I've already damaged the rim. Can you remember last tour? So now I'm going very, 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 very slow. That way, I get to camp with no damaged rims. Hey man, you forgot to tell me there was a spur that went off there. Anyway, probably wouldn't have gone to a great campsite. So I'll let you off the hook this time. So we're just going through little ruts and swales here, but it's nothing much. I'm still in two-wheel drive. I've not yet needed full high or full low. I guess I could have used full low on that 1% just to hold the vehicle, but because it's nothing major, I just applied brakes. I don't know what it is, but I'll check it when we get to camp and I'll let you know. But to get here, I had to take a route that brought me around from Moab. I went north towards Green River and then I turned east towards Grand Junction, and just before Grand Junction I turned off to the right and then went back south and west. So now I'm sort of along the Utah-Colorado state line. That's kind of more or less where this trail runs. Yeah, it was about, from where I camped last night, 125 mile swing around. So, it's a fair little drive, but nothing much. I am going slow because these obstacles, there's been a lot of rain around in this area lately apparently, so going cautiously. Obviously I have no clue as to where I'm going. I'm just following the navigation system. And whilst I try and take on this trail, we've got a little shelf coming up, so let's go slowly here and let the tires down one by one. You can say, well, that was nothing. Why didn't you go over it quicker? I didn't go over it quicker because the rule says, as I said, slow as possible, fast as necessary. It was not necessary to go faster. Yeah, exactly. You guys are not even interacting, you know that. You're not putting comments, not putting likes. You need to interact with me more. Gotta remember, I'm coming out here solo to take these movies so that we can share the experience together, man. You know, this is a gentle decline, but it's downhill all the way, and then some just riding on the brake. And I'm sure I could have put it in low range and just rode on the gearbox, but I don't think it was severe enough. Alright, let's climb up and out of this little stream. Okay, it's a bit of a windy trail, isn't it? So, because my plan and my priority, shelf here again, is to find a campsite. I have not put the drone up because I don't know where I'm going. So once I'm a little bit more familiar with the terrain, then I'll get the drone up and record some of the drive on this trail. But the first priority is campsite. So that's what we are looking for. But very, very slow. You know, there's little spots that you could pull off, but that's more like somewhere to stop. That's not somewhere to camp. So, deep in we go on another solo. Ooh, that's quite a steep incline. Yeah, so there's a good example of how you can get caught by surprise. That shelf actually ended up being a whole lot steeper and dropped off much more on driver's side than I expected. So even though I was going slow. So then unfortunately my camera had overheated and I couldn't really film the rest of it getting out to the campsite that I found for the night. So here I am. I've parked out from the campsite. You'll see it's back in the trees, and I was parked the way that I was to optimize for charging. Thought I'd get the drone up, take a look around. So what will happen as I move the drone down, and we're looking now towards a southerly direction. I wanted to get just a look at the trail. You could see some of it down there in the bottom right. So this is just panning around. That is the trail going back the way that I came from. So why don't we just mosey on over there? Let's get Birdman to fly down and let's go take a look at what it looks like in the direction that I've come from to reach the campsite. Really is a pretty trail and was a very enjoyable drive. I can honestly say not that difficult at all. There were one or two places that I put it in full high, but that was really more precautionary and not because the vehicle was bogging down or anything like that. So really is a simple drive. And then further on, obviously, I'll take a fly down the trail because I just wanted to have a look to see what I would be facing the next morning.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
So here you will see that I've moved the truck to point it more in the southwesterly direction, really just trying to optimize, get as much charge as I could onto those solar generators before the sun set. And as I circle around the campsite here, you will actually see where that fire ring is. That's really the actual campsite, and this just being the access road that gets into the campsite. So I would move the truck back there later in the day after the sun had set. So then what happened was Friday, in fact Thursday night, when I moved my truck to get it back into the campsite, guess what was waiting for me? Check engine light, warning light had come back up. So there I was now concerned. I got engine warning light back up again. This time I am really out on the trail. The truck is running, it's starting, but now I got no idea what the problem is. So I reached out to Curtis again, sent him a text Thursday morning, letting him know that I was stuck. I was out on the trail. Should I drive it? Should I take a chance? Any ideas, any advice? What must I do? Should I come back? I really was somewhat in a stuck. Anyway, time was ticking. It was Friday morning. I hadn't heard from him, so I decided just to drive the truck off the trail and head back to Grand Junction, where I went to the Toyota dealer to get them to take a look at it. So that was last week Friday. As I talk to you today on Wednesday, I still haven't heard or had any response from Curtis whatsoever. Nothing, zero, just radio silence. So at the Toyota dealer, when they checked it, they determined that the air intake, primary and secondary pumps were faulty. There were faults with the sensors, so that had to all get replaced. The parts for that alone were $3,500. Slap another $1,000+ on top of that for labor. They also kind of discovered, and I knew it because it had been getting progressively worse, that my power steering motor was going out of tolerance range and needed to be replaced. So that was, nearly another $1,000. Cut a long story short, I only get out of there yesterday evening. Yeah, so I was in a bind because it was late afternoon that they eventually told me, and to be honest, I got there at midday. So I was somewhat frustrated because now I've got to look for a hotel in the area close by, and I searched and couldn't find any availability anywhere in Grand Junction. So I looked on iOverlander, and out I went, and went and found myself a campsite on the outskirts of town. That campsite, unfortunately, if you look at these picture inserts that I'm going to drop in here, was absolutely filthy. In fact, all the campsites were absolutely filthy. There were cartridge shells, there were shells from various weapons that had been fired, everything from shotgun down to a 22. I counted at my feet where I was sitting in probably a foot and a half, a square foot and a half. I counted 57 shells and or cartridges that I needed to pick up. So massively dirty. I would need to take a bulldozer with me if I was to clean that site and leave it better than I found it. So, you know, absolutely a crying shame that people will do this to the environment, and particularly in an environment where they live, because I find it hard to believe that all of that litter, and in fact it was so bad that you can't really call it litter anymore. At this stage of the game, it has to be called, you know, just out and out damage and destruction to the campsites. It really was that bad and left me with a pretty poor taste in my mouth. So that's where that kind of situation is. So I've actually come down back to Moab, and I'm going to help my buddy Jim just install some new gear, and then in all likelihood get going tomorrow. So the plan, folks, from here is to go and do some more exploration. Where we gotta go this time? Well, I'm thinking maybe it's not a bad idea to go back and complete Ryan's Canyon. And I have created a little bit of a problem for myself that I've just discovered, and that is that one of my solar generators, the 500 watt one, which I had taken into the hotel room to recharge on the utility and then to just have extra power points to use to charge various other devices. Well, when I got picked up by the dealership on Tuesday to go and finalize payment, take my truck and get going, in my rush of getting the stuff that I had in my room out, I left the solar generator behind. So in any event, I'm going to have to go back to Grand Junction at some point. If not tomorrow, then I'm going to have to go back at some point relatively soon, as I'm not too sure that it's going to lie directly on my route when I go back to Nashville. I think I'm going to be somewhat further south at that point. So that's where we head to next. But I can assure you we will go get out there and do some exploring. And I just have a good feeling here that that's the end of the car problems now. So, Pumba willing, we're going to be getting back out there tomorrow. So thank you so much, folks, for joining. I know that I haven't really had much to feature on this. It's just really an update to let you know why there hasn't been a lot more featured, where I stand, and where we're going to go to next. So that's where the excitement lies. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to get out there, because it's really been a slower, frustrating start than I've wanted to have. And at this point, I must say that the excitement is building, and I hope you're going to come with. So do not forget, please like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification button up in the top right hand corner. It'll help you to get notified, and you giving likes helps me with the algorithm so that my videos appear more, and in that way I can build this channel and to continue with this venture. So if you want to do some more with me, come on, keep hitting that like button, give comments. That really, really helps. Thank you ever so much, and I'll see you on the next one.